Welcome to WBS Prime News Live. I'm Anita Mwangazi, but first a look at what's coming up tonight.
I, Bart Maluna Katabene, swear in the name of the Almighty God that I will be faithful.
New Chief Justice, a deputy and ministers sworn in. President appeals on crime.
To happen, people have to have the sense that somebody else could do better. It's one thing to say the government's doing a bad job. The next question is, could somebody else do the job better?
A new survey report gives President Museveni 80% approval rating.
Recorded 4,949 suspected typhoid cases in Kampala.
Government designates former health centers to manage typhoid patients. And German expert Jürgen Cooper redesigns Garuga racetrack. This is WBS Prime News Live. Welcome. The new Chief Justice Bart Katurebe, his deputy Stephen Kavuma, and the newly appointed ministers have been sworn in. This ceremony took place at State House Entebbe, presided over by President Yoweri Museveni.
Swear in the name of the Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Republic of Uganda, and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. So help me God. And that I will preserve.
Honorable Vincent Honorable Philemon Mateke.
Of Uganda, and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. So help me God. The secrecy, so help me God.
Now, new research conducted by the International Republican Institute on the state of affairs in Uganda gives President Museveni an approval rate of 80%, pointing to high confidence levels in the head of state. However, in a bizarre twist of fate, the confidence level in the state institutions and the ruling National Resistance Movement Party are miserable in what political commentators attribute to a deliberate ploy by the president to build a larger-than-institutions image for himself, as Joseph Sabiti reports.
With momentum building towards the 2016 polls, the latest research findings point to doom for the opposition presidential hopefuls as the president gets a confidence rating of 80%. The research that covered a number of questions in the governance sphere rates the president better than all the state institutions, the ruling party, and the cabinet combined.
For that to happen, people have to have the sense that somebody else could do better. Right? It's one thing to say the government's doing a bad job. The next question is, could somebody else do the job better? And so we asked that very question. Thinking the most important problem that you just identified, could any other political party have done a better job than the National Resistance Movement in handling this issue? And 60% say no.
President Museveni, in his intent and in his desire to be seen to be the most important person, to be seen to be the one who delivers, who carries money, who is responsible for services, who's responsible for doing anything and everything, I think you can definitely say he is succeeding, because the country thinks that everything indeed depends on him, which I think is the sad story actually.
75% are people who are aged between 30 to downwards. So these young people, they have never known any president apart from Museveni. So that's the only president they know. Amin, they hear remotely. Obote, they hear remotely. Binaisa, even some don't know Binaisa. When you talk of Lule, nobody even knows among these young people. It is only we who are in 50s who know different presidents.
Most of the political parties in Uganda are in danger because they have no open opportunity of propelling their desires and manifestations. So I'm not surprised that in the rural areas where they hear only about NRM, negativity is afflicted to the political parties.
The president's critics say the result is a pointer to a deliberate ploy by the head of state to murder state institutions and project his own personality. The report findings as well point to lack of confidence in political parties, with voters opting to select candidates based on individual merit other than the legally existing multi-party approach.
2% say, regardless of how well the government is doing, nobody could have done a better job. Now, amongst that 17% who said yes, these are the results. FDC, 12% say FDC could have done a better job, but just 3% say UPC, 1% DP, less than 1% say Conservative Party, and 1% mention another political party.
This whole militarization, that the people should believe in the military, that has succeeded because actually people believe in the military. It's amazing. And which also says to you that people and fear the securitization, the militarization of our society, the project is completed. People actually fear. And therefore people think that it's better if you have the military security around you. So again, I think one has to really sadly say that the death of institutions, the militarization of our society, all these negative trends in our society, the evidence is overwhelming that yes, you have an imperial presidency.
They are rating the government law, the executive. Who makes the executive? It is the president. Actually, it is contradicting itself because now, automatically, the one who makes the executive is the president. He's the one who appoints these over 80 ministers. It is performing poorly. It is we should have attributed it to the president.
There were so many loopholes in the answers given. I am very hesitant to assume that people who want members of parliament to answer their questions would supersede those that would have liked action to be taken about the presidency or a survey to be taken on the presidency.
If the findings are to go by, 69% of the respondents believe the country is moving in the right direction. The research also examined the views of the citizens on the debate around the call for the restoration of the presidential term limits, with a resounding majority in support and as well opposed to the lifting of the presidential age cap. The findings point to no confidence in the Electoral Commission, with citizens appearing to back its overhaul. The army as well enjoyed a comfortable public rating, according to the research, that gives a miserable rating for the legislature. The findings, however, point to a disconnect among the people, with very few relating the different factors that shape performance of government sectors. Sabit Joseph, WBS Television.
Well, we've had their side. It's time now for you to be part of this very discussion. And tonight in our opinion poll question, we ask, what is your opinion on the rating of 80% approval for President Yoweri Museveni in the International Republican Institute research? What is your opinion on the rating of 80% approval for President Yoweri Museveni in the International Republican Institute research? To do this, do join us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/WBS-TV Uganda, and let's get talking. In other news now, 4 more health centers in Kampala have been designated for the management of typhoid. In addition to Kisenyi Health Center 4 that has been managing cases alone, government has also designated Kiswa, Kisugu, Kawala and Komamboga health centers to manage typhoid. Many hospitals in other districts have also been given typhoid drugs to handle this epidemic in case of any threats. Government, however, maintains that for now, the outbreak is only limited to Kampala.
The Director General of Health Services, Jane Acheng, has told the media that currently the epidemic is only known to be in Kampala and not in any other district. This despite 14 cases being reported in other districts, but these are not yet confirmed.
We had recorded 4,949 suspected typhoid cases in Kampala, out of which 1,033 had actually tested positive for typhoid by Tubex. So note their suspected cases and their cases that have tested positive. The suspected are 4,949 and those who have tested positive are only 1,333.
The number of suspects with the disease has reached 4,949 with 1,033 testing positive. This number is putting pressure on the Kisenyi Health Center 4 that has been designated for the management of typhoid. Government has now decided to designate 4 other centers to manage the disease.
Designated 5 treatment centers in Kampala to offer treatment to people reporting with signs and symptoms of typhoid. And these are Kisenyi, that you're all very well aware of. We are also opening centers at Kiswa, Kisugu, Kawala, and Komamboga.
The Ministry of Health, together with Kampala Capital City Authority, National Water and Sewerage Corporation, Uganda National Bureau of Statistics and Uganda People's Defense Forces have formed an expert team of health workers to help handle the increasing cases of the disease.
Surveillance officers from the Ministry of Health and Kampala Capital City Authority, as well as our partners, that has been constituted to monitor evolution of the typhoid outbreak in Kampala and neighboring districts. These officers are working closely with village leaders and local councils to identify and follow up all suspect cases. We are privileged to be having technical guidance and assistance from our partners, World Health Organization, on how to handle this epidemic.
To curb the spread, authorities are chlorinating water tanks in Kampala schools to guarantee protection of children from consuming unsafe water.
On a sad note, a 2-year-old baby has been burnt to death in a house fire caused by a stove that was left lit in the house. This incident took place in Bwaise 1 Kisenyi zone in Kawempe. The baby was killed as her aunt had gone to buy something for breakfast, leaving the baby sleeping.
The baby's mother reportedly works in Juba, South Sudan, and her father had gone to work when the incident happened. The auntie is said to have left the stove on boiling tea when she went to the neighboring shops to buy escort for the tea.
She went out to get some escorts for the tea. Then she came when fire had already started, because the place is it was too congested. So some clothes were near and fire.
Residents say this has been a shock. The child was left in the house sleeping with the stove lighting. Police was called in to fight the fire, but was delayed by the poor roads.
Tulemeddwa okuyitawo era singa omuliro gubadde gukyaliwo tetumanye mpira emeka zetwandibadde tukola ki tuyunga tuleka tutuke wano ekyo kimu. Kyokubiri, bwemba nga mukuma omuliro obulumuzi bwaffe buno butono nnyo, obanga ofumba tofumbira ate mu nnyumba bwemwosula kuno kumakya lwaki toteeka gundi stove wabweru olaba eno accident.
Police attributes the fire and the subsequent death of the baby to the carelessness of the parents to allow cooking in the house, yet it has small space.
It has come up as a result of the congestion that you see in this house. Where this person is renting is very small. The cooking area is not there.
The body of the deceased has been taken to Mulago Hospital for a post-mortem. Nachanzi Hasfa, WBS TV.
Police outlaws and declares illegal a planned Poor Youth Marathon that is being advertised in several sections of the media. The force is therefore warning the public against participating in this event, as they maintain it has not been notified by the organizers. Kampala Metropolitan Police Commander Haruna Isabirye says the marathon planned for the 23rd of March will have any participants arrested.
The police has learned of a group of unscrupulous people yet to be identified, calling people on social media and otherwise to assemble at the American Embassy for a run, which they have dubbed Poor Youth Marathon, on Monday, 23rd March 2015. The police wishes to categorically put it clear that it has not been notified of any such event as required under the Public Order Management Act for the necessary clearance and provision of security. This is therefore a caution members of the public against taking part in an illegal activity, and warn the so-called organizers against misleading members of the public. There will be no such event, and whoever purports to participate in such unlawful event will be dealt with in accordance with the laws of this country.
We now revert to our opinion poll question, and tonight we ask, what is your opinion on the rating of 80% approval for President Yoweri Museveni in the International Republican Institute research? Here are some of your thoughts. Nasasira Barnabas Chifefe, you say it's their own research for us. Let's wait for 2016, our time. We will tell as Ugandans. Atejeka Agre, you say that's fair to them, of course, but to Ugandans it may not be the same. Irene Kugonza, you say you're among the enumerators who carried out that research in Western Uganda, and truth be said, opposition parties are often villages and there Museveni rules. Finally, for now, Mohindo Wilson, you say who will get us out of danger again come 2016. They have brought Lugezi when we are near election. Well, very interesting comment there. In your opinion, this rating is not right. You're welcome to be part of this discussion, and it's ongoing on Facebook at www.facebook.com/WBS TV Uganda. This is WBS Prime News Live, our top stories. New Chief Justice, Deputy and Ministers sworn in. President appeals on crime. New survey report gives President Museveni 80% approval rating. And government designates formal health centers to manage typhoid patients.
Do you recall the last time garbage in your neighborhood was collected? Have you ever experienced garbage spillage trails along your road? Now that will be history. Spear Motors brings you a hygienically safe and labor-efficient garbage compactor truck. Unlike ordinary garbage trucks, this garbage compactor truck completely covers the waste and carries 20 tons of garbage. There is 0% spillage and much fewer trips to the dumping site. The garbage compactor truck is a self-loader. Only 2 men are required for the whole operation. Local authorities and private garbage collectors, the garbage compactor truck is now available at Spear Motors, Nakawa.
Load the airtime knowing it's easy. You get it all back with Chizzy. All the airtime you spend, at the end of the month, Chicho, Chizzy. 1K, 2K, 5K, 10K, 20K, 30K. Airtime you spend is refunded. Talk and talk with Chizzy. Chicho, Chicho, Chicho. Uganda Telecoms got something.
Get
back your airtime with Chize from Uganda Telecom. Dial *100#, select Chize, and get the total amount you spend in a month refunded. This refund can be used for calls and SMSs to all networks for the next 30 days from Uganda's most affordable telecom service. Uganda Telecom. It's all about you.
This is for the magicians, the ones who make sure you and I are fresh and clean all day long. Amidst all challenges, they toil to make us shine. Every single day, they apply their magic to give us more than we've ever dreamt of. Magic that appeals to our senses. Magic so motherly that little angels can't resist. Only they can do this magic. Magic that makes a big job easy and fun. Buy White Star Magic Premium at any shop or supermarket near you and feel the magic of all day fresh clean.
White Star Magic.
Well, let's tunda. Think you have nothing to sell? Look around your home. You'll find something you don't use anymore that you can sell on OLX.
Simply download the OLX app, take a photo of the item you want to sell, post it on OLX for free, meet the buyer, and tunda! OLX, everything sells.
Welcome back to WBS Prime News Live. In our opinion poll question tonight, we ask, what is your opinion on the rating of 80% approval for President Yoweri Museveni in the International Republican Institute research? To have your say, do join us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/WBS TV Uganda, and let's keep the conversation going. The Uganda Muslim Supreme Council are concerned that Muslim schools are being targeted and arbitrarily closed. Several madrasas, Muslim schools, have recently been closed over standards and suspected indoctrination of the children. Now, during Jummah prayers at Old Kampala Mosque, religious leaders here accused police of closing such schools under the guise of getting hold of wrong elements in society.
According to Muslim leaders, a total of Quran and Madrasa schools, which they say teach Muslim faith and have been closed, has now reached 30. It was during today's Jummah prayers at Old Kampala Mosque that the Muslim community in the country accused the police of witch hunting Muslims.
Of Italy, when he went, the number of Muslims were slaughtered, but it has now changed. Instead of slaughtering the Muslims, we are now there for the jail. The number of slaughters are suffering in jail. People are killed, 3 or 4, as they were never hearing, but almost 200 people are killed for that. Is it true? Is it true?
We are no longer having any hope. Why? Muslims have been persecuted. Their schools in Nigeria, about 30 schools, Muslim schools have been closed.
According to Ali Juma Siwuyo, who led the Jummah prayers here, this could be a plot by government to wipe out Muslim movement in Uganda.
We have never had anything wrong with you. What you are going to tell us, you are going to accept totally. Let me say, until you accept me the night.
We are not happy with the way how our issues are being handled by the police. And we are appealing to His Excellency the President to intervene.
This as they appeal to President Museveni to prevail over the police force, saying that some wrong elements could be using them to hunt Muslims.
Therefore, we call upon the government. We are only having just a message of the President. If the President does not come to the rescue,
the community here is appealing to fellow Muslims to remain united, saying that the enemy has used this chance of different factions to trample on Muslims.
Now, with the clock ticking to 24th March, World Tuberculosis Day, legislators on the Health Committee and civil society activists call for increased awareness about a disease that continues to torment over 60,000 Ugandans annually. The activists are concerned that the dangers of the disease have been swept under the carpet as its impact continues to bite.
With the attention of the country focused on diseases that continue to torment the people, a section of members of parliament and civil society activists engaged in work in the health sector say attention needs to be shifted to tuberculosis that they say has since been relegated to the bottom of the priority list of cases focused on by the state.
So as a country, we should address these problems, that is the problems of poverty, problems of malnutrition, problems of poor housing and overcrowding, in order to stem or to stop the transmission of this tuberculosis.
Loss of appetite is a common and almost a universal feature. Loss of appetite. And it carries with it weight loss. So somebody may treat typhoid, they may say, I think he has HIV. Although there is co-infection, it doesn't follow that if at all somebody has TB, also has HIV. He may have TB independent of HIV.
The MPs say the momentum building to the March 24th World Tuberculosis Day should be used to refocus the country towards helping the over 60,000 individuals suffering from the disease in the country.
We should educate the masses, and I talked about social gatherings like the consumption of marwa, if I should give that as an example, but any other brew which involves overcrowding and maybe sharing of straws.
That when we count 1, 2, 3, the two should be having a TB jam. Why aren't they developing TB is the question. Because your immunity is competent enough to contain that jam. And it focuses it at one position in what we call a gone focus.
The day will be celebrated in the northern town of Gulu this year in what is expected to advance the fate of tuberculosis victims across the country. Sabit Joseph, WS Television, Parliament.
In a related development, Uganda will next week join the rest of the world to celebrate the International Tuberculosis Day. Here in Uganda, the day will be celebrated in Gulu district with President Museveni presiding over as chief guest. Tonight on the leveled ground, Timothy Sibasi speaks to the Regional Director of WEDNET Africa, Roger Paul Kamugasa, on why Kampala remains the worst hit area with TB as opposed to cattle corridors where in the past the killer disease claimed thousands of cattle keepers.
On the leveled ground today with me is Roger Paul Kamugasa, the Regional Director of WEDNET. Roger Kamugasa, thank you for joining me.
Most welcome.
On the level ground, an interactive news segment where we discuss issues that affect the people. Well, I understand, Roger, today you have been in Parliament. But before we get into the technicalities of why you had to go to Parliament, what does WEDNET do?
WEDNET works in areas of advocacy, communication and social mobilization for tuberculosis, HIV, malaria, and now issues of maternal health are coming in, and social determinants of health. Because we believe instead of focusing on the disease, curing of the disease, we should also consider the cause of illness. So that's where the social determinants of health come in. You may be aware that now we're moving from Millennium Development Goals to Sustainable Development Goals. So the social determinants of health are important. So WEDNET has a secretariat in Kampala based in Chira, Wakiso district.
I know for a fact that today you have been in the Uganda Parliament trying to make partnership with the Uganda Parliament. Over what?
WEDNET came up with a new project it's going to be supported by GIZ Backup Initiative. It's called APITA. APITA in full is Advocacy for Parliamentary Inclusion of Tuberculosis on the Agenda. So you can see it's Parliament, it's a project that's going to work with Parliament. So we had a very good reception with Parliament. preceding this day, trying to arrange for how we can work closely with the Parliamentary Committee on Health to have the APTA project moving. And the underlying factor here is or the entry point is the Barcelona Declaration. Every year there's a union conference for lung disease and tuberculosis. Goes on. This next year is going to be in South Africa. This year is going to be in South Africa. Last year it was in Barcelona, Spain. So while in Spain, Barcelona, that was last year, December, countries, Europe, the whole world that attended that conference came up with a declaration, which is now known as Barcelona Declaration. And this declaration it's a declaration made by civil society, members of parliament, governments, to really highlight the burden of tuberculosis globally. So, of course, many MPs signed this declaration. Unfortunately, at that time, there was no single Uganda MP that attended that conference, due maybe to missing from poor communication or something like that.
You are teaming up with politicians.
Yeah.
Why are you leaving out Minister of Health?
No, we are not leaving out Minister of Health. Actually, we are with Minister of Health, and actually, we work with Minister of Health. We work with the Uganda Stop TB Partnership. Uganda Stop TB Partnership is the umbrella of civil society organizations working on tuberculosis. So we've been working with the Uganda Stop TB Partnership. Actually, today, the Executive Director, Dr. Paul Siko, made a statement to the committee, and the committee also had to make a statement towards the Barcelona Declaration. And we work closely. TB, the custodian of tuberculosis in the country, is the National TB and Leprosy Program, headed by Dr. Frank Mugabe. That's under Minister of Health. So that's the Minister of Health. So work closely with the Minister of Health and the USTP. USTP has membership, cross-cutting membership from all organizations, international and national, working on tuberculosis as civil society. So actually, it's the Executive Director of USTP who made a statement.
You still remember the Global Fund stuff, which almost had a component to address issues to do with TB. What are you doing to ensure that this time round, this program does not suffer the same problem that faced the Global Fund issue?
I happen to be a member of the Global Fund Board, Communities Delegation. I happen to be on the board of UNITAID in Geneva also, on the Civil Society Contact Group. I'm a member of the European TB Coalition. So I am directing to this. What happened, the Global Fund has transitioned from the old round model to a new funding model. The new funding model is a better strategy, a better for countries now. There's no longer that business of mismanaging of funds, and Uganda, you may know, it was blacklisted, and afterwards it was cleared. So we are now under the Global Fund new funding model. Actually, WEDNET has been doing capacity building in areas of empowering key affected populations into this new funding model. So the new funding model is going to sort out all those what you're talking about. And as I talk, Uganda has already submitted a proposal for tuberculosis, joint proposal for TB HIV. And the mouth of the Global Fund here is the mouthpiece is the CCM, Country Coordinating Mechanism, where we're working closely also with the CCM to ensure that the rights of the vulnerable people living with the disease, sex workers, prisoners, truck drivers, those rights are catered for by the CCM, which is the custodian of Global Fund management and mechanism in every country. Every country has country coordinating mechanism, which is a CCM.
You say that you have been at the center of all this. How serious is TB as a disease in this country?
Actually, TB is probably known as a silent killer. Silent because it's not being highlighted, and like I told you, 50% deaths of HIV are attributed to TB. But it's because of poor advocacy, poor communication, poor social mobilization, people are not very much aware. The awareness is still minimal. So, but the TB burden in Uganda, actually surprisingly, Kampala, with its 5 divisions, Kampala has the highest TB burden in the country. And the burden is escalating to the extent that now TB, because of poor or minimal sensitization and awareness about tuberculosis, when people start treatment, they opt out after feeling better. And after opting out, they develop resistant strains. So TB keeps changing form now from mild drug resistant to now, which the normal TB, which is called the normal TB, takes 6 to 8 months on treatment. But when it changes form now to mild drug resistant TB, treatment takes 2 years. And now there is also extra drug resistant TB. Means the first one, which there is rifampicin, when the first tuberculosis resist that medicine, then it's taken to the second line drugs, which are for mild drug resistant TB, MDR TB. Then when that adjusted the patient fails, then you go for extra. Extra is still very tricky. So all that is brought by opting out of treatment, being lost to follow up. A patient starts medicine, when they feel better, they say, I'm now feeling better, I no longer go for, they opt out. And so we need to educate, as work for political commitment to increase the TB resources for tuberculosis, the government of Uganda. We're also having a project to sensitize people about the dangers of TB. TB is curable, the drugs are free in all public health facilities, free up to 8 months. You're not supposed to pay a coin at any health facility. And drugs are available. The Global Fund avails drugs. The National Medical Stores has TB drugs. Even we've had cases of MDR, and even MDR TB drugs are here. And also, as TB keeps changing form, we have also had an opportunity now. The country has gene experts.
You are saying that Kampala is the most affected area. But initially, pastoral areas were the most affected areas. What caused that shift?
Actually, pastoral areas were not the most affected, only that also pastoral cities get there's a TB that comes from the cows. I wouldn't want to go fine to that. I mean, my area is I'm a communication specialist, I'm not a scientist, but they used to get TB, pastoral cities get TB from the cows. But that was very minimal. It's because TB was rampant in the urban centers, congregated settings, something that people didn't know. The awareness was minimal, and people, but it was so true that it was in the more and the pastoralists, because people used to associate TB with unboiled milk and all those first, but it's not true. It was
now,
in slums, urban centers.
There is a move in Parliament of coming along with the anti-tobacco bill. Where is your position on that tobacco bill?
Yes, our position happened to be, there's a ministry has the tobacco and the ALS forum. I was part of the ratification of the treaty. I think myself, I was the first person to take a letter to BAT of working on those adverts, make sure adverts don't really come out. The cigarette adverts, the adverts come out, the cigarette warning adverts come out properly on the cigarette packs. I took that letter working with Dr. Sheila Nandiyanavanji, and we had a very good launch of that move. And they're working, I think it's in the bill form now in Parliament, the tobacco bill. They're working very hard to have it into a law that will actually determine safeguard passive smokers.